during that time, the process of being on the show was so consuming, so overwhelming, so novel. And I was just an ordinary girl that had this vision, went into the show and was spat out the other side with, at one point, the whole of the UK having an opinion on me, people saying negative things online, the pressures of actually launching the business, the pressure to perform, to make sure Lord Sugar knows he made the right decision. The weight was enormous, far too much of a burden for one person to carry.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Small Business Snippets podcast, the podcast from smallbusiness.co.uk. I'm your host, Anna Jordan. Today we have Marnie Swindells. You may recognise her as the winner of The Apprentice back in 2023, and she's also the founder of boxing gym Bronx, which, as you can see, we're in right now. In fact, we are in the ring as we speak, and we're not going head to head today. Instead, we're going to be talking a bit about Marnie's business and how it came to be. Hello, Marnie.
Hello, Anna. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. How are you?
I am good. It has been a very, very busy week, but yeah, all part of the plan.
Lovely. Well, I'm just going to go deep dive straight in today.
Go for it.
And this requires a bit of paper because I'm thinking about business owners who are sort of would-be entrepreneurs who have an idea, sort of have a passion, but are in a job maybe they're unfulfilled by.
Been there.
And they're just, yeah, exactly that. And there's a quote from you, which I'm going to read off just here, that I really loved. So it's, put down the pen someone else gave you. No one ever drafted a life worth living
on borrowed ink.
Okay, paper be gone.
Yeah, I absolutely love that saying. I think it's so easy to get caught up in a easy, comfortable lifestyle in which we settle for whatever life gives us. And I really believe nothing changes unless it changes. You have to really go out and happen to life and be the master of your own fate. You can't just follow a path that's already set. And I think a lot of people have dreams and passions that are so big, but they just feel so impossible. So my advice to those people would be to not let life escape you and not let those passions go without a fight. Look at it objectively. I think the best thing you can do is once you have that vision of an idea or a business, and once you can see it, it becomes tangible. Then it's sort of reverse engineering, how do I get from where I am now in this corporate job or this job, and how do I take the steps that I need to take in order to get me to there? And there may be many steps. It may be a very arduous journey, but it will be worth it. And if it's not worth it, at least you can die one day going, I tried.
That's it. It honestly made me think about you're pursuing a legal career. Mm-hmm. Everything from the criminal defense lawyer that you met at your local boxing club.
Yes.
Who helped you decide that you wanted to train as a barrister, all the way through to deciding, oh, this isn't my dream, and then returning to your love of boxing. I would love to talk about sort of your mindset, because the impression I'm getting is that there's maybe a link between that phrase and maybe finding yourself in this sort of legal career that you know isn't quite for you.
Yeah, I think one of the draws for that path for me was how impossible it was. I come from a very working class background. My dad worked on the railways, my mum was a cleaner, and then after my father passed, we became a single parent, low income household. We lived in a caravan. So the idea that I could be a barrister was so attractive, and the challenge of it really turned me on. I really wanted it. So I think there's something about wanting something that's so unattainable, which is what pulled me to it. And it goes back to the initial question: is you can't be deterred from what is in the immediate vicinity. You can't look around you and think that this is your limitation. Another quote that I absolutely love is my shoes might be broken, but my mind is a palace. And it's that idea that anything is possible, and I really believe it is. Me pursuing that legal career, I had no business doing. I did not belong there. But it is testament to what you can achieve if you really set your mind on something.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that tenacity that you've shown with everything that you do.
Yeah. I usually get what I want. I will go bankrupt. I usually really try and pursue the things that I want. Because as I said, I don't want to die one day knowing that I didn't really give it a shot, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's within everybody. I don't think I am special in that sense, or blessed or gifted or even lucky. I just think I have the kahunas. The kahunas to try.
Yes. One thing that I've noticed throughout Bronx's messaging and its branding is very much a realness. I find that very refreshing. And this space did not always look like this. When you first bought it, it was derelict. It had been unoccupied for 8 years. Asbestos, sewage.
Yeah.
Not in great shape, to say the least.
Yeah.
So why did you go for this building over perhaps other buildings in the area?
When I first walked in, I couldn't even come fully into the site and view it because the sewage was knee high and it was in a real mess. But I looked at the size, I looked at the scope, I looked at the concrete ceilings, and I had that vision of what it could be, and I saw the potential. And I went home and I just could not leave it alone. The thought of it just kept coming back day after day after day, and I thought I have to do something about it. And at the time, I was 24 when I first viewed it, so there was no money in the bank account. I was just coming out of uni, my first sort of real job. It really was a pipe dream at that point. And it was only when I approached the council and said, look, this is the big idea. I was always good at selling. I was always good at selling the vision. So I said, look, this is the big idea. This is what I can do. And if you have the faith in me, I will go away. I'll raise the funds. I will come back. I'll put together a business plan. Like, can I make this happen? And given the state that the building was in and nobody else wanted it, the council were very quick for it to become someone else's problem. And the man who deals with the building in the council was kind and bold enough to look at me and share my vision of what it could be. So I went off, I wrote a business plan that covered every possible question an investor could ask. Then I went and sought investment. I raised just short of £400,000 for this downstairs part, and started to put those wheels in motion. So it is really about breaking down those steps. I saw another quote that I really like is, how do you eat an elephant? And the premise is that you have to really break it down. You can never eat it whole. You have to really take it step by step by step by step. And there may be many steps, but eventually it will come to fruition. So again, my advice to anyone would be is to look at what something's going to cost you, what you really want from it, what the mission is, and really try and have those conversations with yourself. And if you can do that, if you can break it down into other pieces, create that business plan, create that vision, create that pathway, then there's really nothing off limits for anyone.
Mm-hmm. Because it's impressive that you wrote out a full business plan. I mean, at Goldsmiths, you studied politics and history, am I right?
Yes, I did.
So how did you learn how to create a business plan from there with no business background as such?
Yeah, well, I didn't. And this is the thing is, what's crazy about how all this has transpired is, in the beginning, it really was the blind leading the blind. I've learned everything on the job. But I downloaded a template from Google and just chipped it away at it. Each day I would think deeply about it to the point I was obsessed with the business plan. I'd be walking the dog and just chewing over different segments, and then I'd refine one segment and move on to the next. And it was just this evolution of ideas constantly. And I've always loved language. I've always loved people's ability to articulate themselves. I think if you can communicate an idea, whether that's in written form or pitching, I think it's the only way you can get what's inside out. So I kept refining this business plan to make sure that it really reflected exactly what was within and exactly what I was trying to say and achieve.
Oh yeah, so much of it is in the story.
Yeah.
who you are, and you have the most incredible backstory and where you got to where you are.
Yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey. It's been very multifaceted, a lot of layers, a lot of in and out. I was involved in the boxing world as a competitor for a long time. Then I was involved as a coach. I dabbled in some promoting. Then I left boxing entirely to join the legal world, but found myself constantly being pulled back to the sport. And now I found myself back in boxing, but in a more facilitating role. And I found that this is exactly where I was supposed to be. So all of those meanders of my life and those different swaying in and out of different things, each taught me something else to add to the armor and bring me to the place that I am today.
I'd love to move on to, I was talking a bit about finances within the business. And of course, I was actually planning to ask you, I'd seen a story about thieves had broken in, stolen £3,000 worth of equipment before that you launched the second floor just there of the gym. But of course, actually, to the viewers watching, there was another attempted break-in just the weekend just gone. So we're right up to the minute here. But is there any kind of lessons that you learned from the last time that you've carried forward to this time? Or
yeah, I think business is all about setbacks. It really is a roller coaster. And not just the physicality of break-ins or even damage, loss of coaches, loss of members, fluctuations. It's full of surprises, some incredible ones, some awful ones. One thing, again, I love about business is every day is an opportunity. Any day the phone could ring and someone could say, AJ wants to come and do a photo shoot in your gym, or I've had it before, Sky Sports wants to hire it and do a public workout in your gym. And then another day you can wake up and someone's tried to break in, and you really have to literally roll with the punches. So it's part and parcel of it. This business life is not for the faint-hearted. If you want an easy ride, stay in employment. If you want a straightforward, and I've been there, I can speak on it because I've felt both sides of the coin. I've felt the security of a salaried job, but I've also felt the lack of appreciation, the lack of passion in that. So as painful as business can be, and it can be heartbreaking at times, it also can be so rewarding and such a source of pride for me.
Yeah, and I think with entrepreneurs, they're so focused that sometimes other parts of their life can slip by the wayside. And I know that you had sort of issues with this when you were on The Apprentice, that perhaps your relationship suffered and that you weren't really maybe as happy with how other parts of your life were going, because it was such an all-consuming process. How did you manage that?
It was. And during that time, the process of being on the show was so consuming, so overwhelming, so novel. And I was just an ordinary girl that had this vision, went into the show and was spat out the other side with, at one point, the whole of the UK having an opinion on me, people saying negative things online, the pressures of actually launching the business, the pressure to perform, to make sure Lord Sugar knows he made the right decision. The weight was enormous, far too much of a burden for one person to carry. And during that time, I lent on my partner, and it appears I lent on him too much. And that relationship suffered, but I'm really, really, really grateful it did, because I look to it now and I look back on that time and I think, I did it by myself. I got through it by myself. I launched the gym. I did all the PR, I did all the interviews. I remember the night of the launch, which was just around the breakdown of that relationship. I was in my office and I would go in, I would sit on the floor, I would sob for 5 minutes. I would stand back up, wipe the tears, come back out, do an interview, go back in, sob. And I must have done that 5 or 6 times throughout the night. A night that should have been so special, that I'd built up. That was the vision for so many years, was that night. And it absolutely collapsed under the weight of the breakdown of that relationship. Fast forward now, like about 2 years now, and I could not be happier and proud of myself. that I didn't let that moment in time, as much as it could have, crack me. And it did crack me for a second, but I built back up from it. And now no one can ever take away what's mine and what I've built. So I'm really happy how things worked out.
That's incredible. It's just such an incredible mindset to have, because I think that some people can get into this real pit of despair and riddled with regrets, but you seem to just take everything on.
Absolutely not. At the time, I was in a pit of despair. I was in the trenches. But I quickly realized the people that are meant to be on that journey with you will be. And it was testament to people standing by you when you really need them. That was a time that I really needed my partner. I really needed my hand held and someone just in the background saying, I've got you, it's gonna be okay. And that was the time that he cracked. And that meant that I had to absorb it myself. And I did, and I'm here to tell the tale. So I don't regret it. Some lessons you need to go through, some journeys you have to take alone, and I'm doing that. And I'd also like that to be proof to people that whatever is going on, whatever circumstances you are facing, that truthfully learning to be alone and count on yourself, no one can take it away from you then. No one can say they had a hand in it, they had a part in it. So if you do have a vision, figure out a way to do it yourself. Have people around you that are supportive, but never to the extent that if you lose that person, you're lost.
Yeah, everything falls apart.
Yeah, that was a big lesson for me.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that every business owner has their version of the story that you told just there, of going back and forth to have a cry.
Yeah.
You get back to it, have a cry, get back to it. And yeah, they're watching going, yeah, same. But of course, having a strong support network, I imagine in terms of your friends, your family, is vital. But what else helped you through? What other kind of tools helped you through that period of time?
The joys, because there were also some real highs.
Yeah.
And the things that went well were even sweeter because you knew what you'd been through to get there. And as much as people weren't there when I needed them when I was down, they also didn't get to enjoy the highs. They didn't get to see the success. They didn't get to smell the roses with me. And that in itself, I think, is enough. It consoles me enough to know that I get to enjoy it and it's mine and I will look after it. I won't abandon it. This is my baby forever. But it's hard because life throws curveballs at you all the time. Just when you think things are going okay and everything's steady, sometimes the most unimaginable, uncomprehendable things come your way. I think part of being a good business owner, a good leader, is being able to learn how to cope with that and deal with that. I will also say though on this, one of the big lessons I learned during that time was the power of vulnerability. I've been brought up in a household where I was always taught not to cry. Don't cry in front of anyone, it's a weakness. And there were moments where I found myself so broken that there was nothing holding me together. And had it not been for some of the people in my team and my friends and people that worked for me, but that I genuinely now consider my family, truly my family, had they not lifted me up and picked up the pieces, this gym would not be where it is today. Equally, had I not let them in on that journey with me, had I been stoic and kept them afar, they might not have been able to reach out to me in the way they had. You know, I feel like it's so important in my position to be the captain of the ship and leading. But if you sometimes don't have the ability to steer, you could be taking the whole thing off course. So sometimes know when to step away, let your team take charge, take the lead and have your back. That was a really, really, really important lesson.
Absolutely. I think especially there can be a mindset in entrepreneurship where it's like, keep going no matter what. And with setbacks like that, it can run the risk of maybe not processing it well, and that it comes back to get you later on in some way or another. And it's again, it's learning how to process that in a healthy way. And
my favourite things that I say a lot, all my team will say, they hear me say, is heavy is the head that wears the crown. But learning to share that burden and share that load has been pivotal for me, because I found that people are good. People are there waiting to catch me when I fall if I just lean on them. And as much as that crown is heavy, it's also an absolute privilege. It's a privilege to carry the responsibility of so many people's lives, so many people's work, so many people's place that they come and find a sense of relief. I find a lot of honor in that. And going back to how you cope in those moments, I remind myself that, I do have this job to do, and I find strength knowing I have to live up to be the person that people think I am.
Yes, especially I can imagine in the hard-nosed world of boxing.
Yeah.
Even legal as well, that must be.
That was what was quite refreshing about it, is because, as you said, boxing is this hyper-masculine, aggressive, show no weakness sport. So to find myself surrounded, not judged, was pivotal. And I think a lot of people, even in the corporate world, in any world, leaders showing that they have feelings too, that they have places where it hurts as well, I think can be a way that people can bond and resonate and see parts of themselves in you. And if anything, it just creates more allegiance, more strength, more unity, and more willingness to help. You have a very transactional relationship with your team. That transaction goes both ways. So when you need them, when you really need to dip out for a second, you need someone to jump in. I have that. And in places that are very cold, it's very superficial, very cutthroat, they lose the opportunity to create something special with the people they spend the most of their time with, which is your colleagues.
Nice. And before we wrap up here today, I'd love to get your insight on starting a fitness business. I think it's an area which is becoming increasingly popular, and that a lot of would-be entrepreneurs are thinking about. So sort of bring us full circle back to the start. What kind of advice would you have for people tuning in about starting a fitness business in particular?
Well, I would, and I said this on The Apprentice, that you aren't selling fitness, you're selling feelings. People's main draw, I believe, to go to their gym isn't usually just specifically about the fitness element. People, because they can get that from many places. You can get that from big chain commercial gyms that feel quite clinical. You can get that from boutique gyms. If it was just about going to get a six-pack, you can do that anywhere for much cheaper. What people pay for is the experience and how it makes them feel. So the coaches are vital. Coaches are your bread and butter. The atmosphere, the space, the brand, it's how you make people feel. So my advice would be to really look at it from the customer's point of view, the customer's eyes. When they walk in, what are they met with? I feel like the gyms are traditionally quite intimidating places. So the more inclusive, the more open door, the more friendly you can make it feel, the more successful I believe you'll be.
Yeah. I would also say windows. I've been in a few gyms before where it's in a basement and there's so much light coming in. I can make such a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that's a brilliant note to end on. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Marnie. It's been great having you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you want to find out more on becoming an entrepreneur and how to run your business, head over to smallbusiness.co.uk and you can find our socials in the show notes. See you next time.